Inside the demon realm, a strange gate opens to a vast, empty plain where two small sprouts sit alone. Suddenly, a giant bird-like foot slams down right next to the tiny plants, shaking the ground. A bizarre creature appears, a yellow snake-like body with bird legs, and it looks up curiously. The creature then spots the shimmering sprouts on the ground and fixes its gaze on them. The small plant begins to tremble, as if sensing the danger from the approaching figure. In a burst of energy, the sprout erupts from the earth, transforming into a large radish monster with glowing red eyes. The snake-like beast is taken by surprise and hops backward, startled by the sudden change. Now the two monsters stand facing each other across the barren landscape, ready for a fight. The two figures glare at one another, their glowing eyes locked in a tense and silent standoff. The yellow creature lunges forward with its mouth wide open, attempting to bite the radish monster. The scene shifts to a playful scuffle between them, as a spectator wonders who will win today. Two powerful figures watch the fight. One thinks the result is obvious, while the other notes the battle is fierce. A group of radish monsters prepares a special team attack, charging up for a powerful punch. As the punch is thrown, the snake-like creature easily dodges the attack, surprising an onlooker. The punch misses and hits another radish monster by mistake, causing a moment of confusion. After the accidental hit, the fight comes to an awkward standstill, with both monsters pausing. The yellow creature's eyes fill with tears, and it lets out a sad whimper, clearly upset by the outcome. Defeated and heartbroken, the snake-like creature runs away crying while the radishes watch it go. The mandragora celebrates its 99th victory, while a spectator notes its opponent also fought well. A young man approaches the victor with a gentle smile, remarking on the big match it just had. The little monster gets excited, urging the man to hurry as he gets ready to open a can for it. He dips his fingers into the container, taking out a small amount of a white, gel-like substance. Seated at a wooden table outdoors, he gently rubs the cream onto the little monster's body. He lifts the happy creature, amused that it enjoys the moisture cream so much. A young girl with an owl on her head interrupts, asking her uncle when the food will be ready. The man, now cooking with intense flair over a fire, promises her that she will love the dish. The girl offers a basket full of eggs, insisting it would be a shame not to include them in the meal. Agreeing with her, the cook theatrically cracks an egg, letting it fall into the fiery pan. The girl watches, amazed by her uncle's fiery cooking performance, exclaiming that he is very skilled. He proudly holds up the finished plate of food, and the girl eagerly says they should eat quickly. The cook suddenly stops his niece, saying the most important thing is left. Confused, she asks what it could be. He explains that the final touch is to sprinkle sesame seeds, theatrically adding them to the dish. With the meal finally ready, the girl calls everyone to eat. The young man holding the little monster decides to join them. The cook, Nam Guseok, proudly announces his special sauce-infused dish, catching the attention of his two guests. He unveils the main course, a glistening plate of special kimchi fried rice, topped with a perfect egg. The group sits around a large wooden table, ready to eat. The cook happily tells them all to enjoy the meal. The young man gives the first bite to his niece, bringing a spoonful of the freshly made rice to her. Her eyes go wide with absolute shock and amazement the moment the food touches her tongue. She excitedly yells that the food is incredibly delicious, while the proud cook encourages her to eat more. The woman in the skull mask compliments his cooking, and he gets flustered, saying it is an honor to suit her taste. The young man then decides to try the kimchi fried rice for himself, taking a spoonful. As soon as he tastes it, his expression shifts, his eyes narrowing in slight surprise. He looks down at his arm, noticing that the little radish monster has already fallen fast asleep. At the same time, the eagle-headed man enjoys his food, while the girl tries to feed her little owl. The skull-masked woman asks for another serving, and the cook excitedly dashes off to get her more. A subtle smile plays on the young man's lips as he savors the taste of the food. He leans back, closing his eyes for a moment, enjoying the peaceful atmosphere of the demon realm. As the sun sets, he looks at his companions, thinking that life here is not so bad after all. But one day, the peace was shattered when a glowing red rift tore open the sky. From this gate, a wave of destruction was unleashed as swarms of insectoid monsters poured out. These cruel and ferocious monsters, from a world later called the Demon Realm, laid waste to cities. In response to the crisis, certain chosen individuals awakened with powers and became known as hunters. These were beings who had awakened their mana, granting them special and powerful abilities. Thanks to these newly awakened heroes, humanity was finally able to launch a counterattack. Cities were slowly rebuilt, and though problems remained, some people could finally enjoy a normal life again. However, the fight was far from over, as a lone hunter found himself cornered by a group of vicious monsters. He lets out a powerful shout, unleashing a burst of energy from his shield to push them back. But his efforts were not enough, as a massive beast appeared and swallowed him whole. This highlighted a grave problem. The number of naturally awakening hunters was far too small. Amid the ruins of the world, a new solution had to be created to face the endless threat. That solution was none other than artificial life, a new kind of warrior created in a lab. These new beings, known as chimera hunters, were deployed to fight the monstrous hordes. Their creation process involved controversial materials, like the corpses of death row inmates and animals. Other components included special minerals that were harvested from inside the monster gates. The final ingredient used to bring these artificial soldiers to life was potent monster cells. After many failed and gruesome experiments, humanity's desperate efforts for survival finally bore fruit. This breakthrough made the mass production of chimera hunters possible, creating a new army. The combination of science and hunters drastically lowered casualties and saved countless lives. With this newfound strength, society began the slow and difficult process of rebuilding. Late one night, at an illegal chimera research lab, a worker is ready to go home after one last check. He and a colleague enter a storage area, where he notices that chimera number 17's arm looks rotten. His partner warns him not to get close, but the man says it's fine since the chimera's brain is broken. The creature's right arm is completely mutated, making the researcher wonder if it's a side effect. He then asks his nervous colleague why he is so scared of a subject that seems unable to see. The timid man suggests they just pass the inspection, as the failed chimera will be discarded soon anyway. The two researchers walk away, leaving the broken chimera alone in its bloody dark cell. Inside the lab director's office, he is told that number 17 has become completely useless. His subordinates report that the chimera's body is too damaged, and any other subject would have died by now. They estimate it only has a month left to live, a prognosis the other researcher quietly agrees with. The director decides to deploy the dying chimera in a gate blockade operation to cover the hunter's retreat. He gives a final grim order. They are not to input a return command, leaving the chimera to its fate. The scene shifts to the demon realm, where the lone chimera stands in a desolate, rocky landscape. Suddenly, a massive winged monster swoops down from the sky, its jaws wide open to attack. The chimera digs its claws into the ground, bracing itself for the incoming aerial assault. It unleashes a web of energy, ensnaring the flying beast and stopping its attack mid-air. As it deals with the first threat, the ground trembles violently, signaling a new danger from behind. A colossal worm-like monster bursts from the earth, roaring as it towers over the lone warrior. The chimera stands its ground between the two beasts, its eyes scanning the overwhelming odds. The giant worm shoots a beam of light, lifting the chimera helplessly into the air. Even while captured, the creature unleashes a counterattack, striking the massive beast below. The worm monster retaliates, gathering a massive sphere of crackling blue energy in its maw. It unleashes the energy in a powerful beam, aiming directly at the winged beast still caught in the web. The blast hits its target directly, engulfing the winged creature in a blinding explosion of electricity. The other monsters shriek in pain as the powerful electrical attack surges through them as well. Watching from a safe distance, a group of hunters is amazed by the S-class chimera's power. One of them notes that it's the third day, but there is still no sign of the gate closing. His companion tells him not to worry, confident that the S-class chimera can hold out indefinitely. The swordsman of the group tightens his grip on his weapon, stating their only job now. He swiftly cuts down a monster that got through, explaining they just need to handle the stragglers. Suddenly, the swirling vortex of the red gate begins to shrink and fade away. A signal confirms the gate's disappearance, prompting the hunters to prepare for their exit. The leader immediately gives the order for everyone to retreat. That solution was none other than artificial life, a new kind of warrior created in a lab. These new beings, known as chimera hunters, were deployed to fight the monstrous hordes. Their creation process involved controversial materials, like the corpses of death row inmates and animals. Other components included special minerals that were harvested from inside the monster gates. The final ingredient used to bring these artificial soldiers to life was potent monster cells. After many failed and gruesome experiments, humanity's desperate efforts for survival finally bore fruit. This breakthrough made the mass production of chimera hunters possible, creating a new army. The combination of science and hunters drastically lowered casualties and saved countless lives. With this newfound strength, society began the slow and difficult process of rebuilding. Late one night, at an illegal chimera research lab, a worker is ready to go home after one last check. He and a colleague enter a storage area, where he notices that chimera number 17's arm looks rotten. His partner warns him not to get close, but the man says it's fine since the chimera's brain is broken. The creature's right arm is completely mutated, making the researcher wonder if it's a side effect. He then asks his nervous colleague why he is so scared of a subject that seems unable to see. The timid man suggests they just pass the inspection, as the failed chimera will be discarded soon anyway. The two researchers walk away, leaving the broken chimera alone in its bloody dark cell. Inside the lab director's office, he is told that number 17 has become completely useless. His subordinates report that the chimera's body is too damaged, and any other subject would have died by now. They estimate it only has a month left to live, a prognosis the other researcher quietly agrees with. At the very moment of its death, something strange and unexpected begins to happen. As its physical form dissolves, forgotten memories of an unrecorded past surface in its mind. It remembers a shocking truth: it was once a complete human before being kidnapped at the age of 9. An entire lifetime flashes before its eyes, but its damaged brain cannot comprehend the meaning. Even so, its consciousness calmly observes the tragic story of its forgotten past life. The memory begins 79 years ago at the District 13 orphanage, where a man holds a newborn baby. 9 years later, that same boy is being scolded by the orphanage director for fighting with a friend. The tense confrontation escalates, and a window shatters during the heated argument. Unable to handle him any longer, the orphanage kicks the boy out, leaving him alone in the snow. With nowhere to go, the young boy wanders through the cold streets before collapsing onto the ground. As he lies in the snow, a black van pulls up, its shady occupants noticing the vulnerable child. He is taken to a secret lab and strapped to a table, becoming a new experimental subject. Scientists gather around him, referring to him only as number 17, and noting the spells cast on him. A lead researcher orders the procedure to be recorded before they inject him with powerful cells. The injection begins, and the scientists eagerly watch to see how their new subject will react. To their shock, the boy shows no side effects. A special ability has appeared, but he maintains his human form and ego. A scientist notes his unique constitution and orders the team to keep implanting things until there is a reaction. The memory flashes forward to 5 years later, with the researchers still conducting their grim experiments. Now a teenager, he is deployed on the battlefield, where he finds himself facing a monster. He stands his ground, unleashing a powerful energy shield to block the creature's attack. The young man holds the shield steady, protecting the two cowering figures behind him from the monster. As more insectoid beasts approach, he prepares to unleash a powerful offensive blast of his own. His attack hits the monsters directly, engulfing them in a burst of destructive blue energy. He looks at his hand, the blue energy slowly fading after he successfully eliminated the threat. A woman holding her child gratefully thanks the young man for saving their lives from the monsters. A soldier apologizes for putting such a heavy burden on a child, but the boy says it's fine. Another 5 years pass, and the young man, now a full-fledged hunter, stands on a battlefield. He stops suddenly, looking around at the destruction, confused about why he is there or what he was doing. One of the scientists approaches from behind, asking why number 17 stopped, and if his memory is confused. The scientist laughs, triumphantly announcing that the long-awaited side effects have finally begun. 54 years ago, a scientist's notes detail the results of implanting over 500 monster cells for 15 years. His rank became immeasurable. Chained and mutated, he was cruelly declared the lab's greatest success. A memory from 20 years ago shows a hand offering him raw meat, calling him number 17, a good boy. In his monstrous form, he startles a handler by snatching the food, showing his untamed nature. Onlookers react with disgust, a father shielding his child's eyes from the gross creature. The memories end, returning to 3 days ago, to the moment of his final sacrificial attack. As his body dissolved, his mind focused on one thing: he had successfully completed all his missions. The flashes of his past life fade, leaving only the image of the desolate battlefield where he died. But in that wasteland, a single piece of bone, the last physical remnant of the chimera, remains. The bone begins to glow, gathering dust and sand around it as it starts to regenerate. The material coalesces into a human shape, culminating in a brilliant burst of golden light. A new skeleton rises from the ground, infused with the power of 527 different monster cells. Flesh and muscle rapidly grow over the bones, reforming the body of Chimera Hunter number 17. The process completes in a final blinding flash, signifying that his rebirth is finished. When the light fades, a pair of human feet stands on the ground where he was reborn, whole once more. He looks down at his hands, his mind reeling as he tries to understand what has just happened. Standing alone in the vast, empty wasteland, he looks at his reflection and wonders if he is human again. The question echoes in his mind as he takes his first steps, unsure of his new existence. He realizes he is not completely human, as his monster cell abilities are still present. Seeing that the number on his wrist is gone, he wonders if this means he is finally free from the lab. He deduces his revival is likely the ability of an immortal-type monster like a phoenix. The cells belong to a creature with incredible regenerative powers, able to survive almost anything. This power allows him to revive up to 3 times, as long as his core is not destroyed. He recalls being told that human and immortal cells couldn't fuse, but feels his body is now at its peak. The spells meant to control him have vanished, and the fog that clouded his mind is finally gone. With his life as number 17 over, he wonders if he can finally have a chance to live as a human. He tries to remember his original name, recalling the words of the man who raised him at the orphanage. The man had named him Cheon Du-woon, hoping it would inspire him to live a life helping others. But now, he scoffs at the memory, thinking it's absurd for an orphan from the slimes to help anyone. He looks out at the desolate landscape, wondering what to do now, and if he should seek revenge. He dismisses the idea for now, realizing that revenge requires a clear target, something he currently lacks. So much time has passed that his desire for vengeance has faded. Besides, he has no way back to the human world. He decides to postpone any thoughts of revenge, certain that he will encounter his old enemies again someday. With a new sense of purpose, he shifts his focus to his immediate survival in this unfamiliar world. He stands silently for a moment, watching the sun dip below the mountains as he contemplates his next move. After some reflection, he makes a decision. For now, he will simply try to live a life that feels human. His first priority is a practical one. He needs clothes, but he cannot recall the last time he wore any. He starts walking across the vast and empty landscape, beginning his new life in this strange realm. After a while, he reaches a lush area near a river and wonders what he can use to make some clothing. He looks around the unfamiliar environment, realizing that finding suitable materials will be a tough challenge. Deciding to explore, he cautiously peeks through a thicket of bushes to get a better look at the area. As he scans his surroundings, something unexpected catches his eye, and his expression shifts to one of surprise. He discovers the body of a large bird-like creature, wondering if it died in a territorial dispute. Upon closer inspection, he finds no major injuries and deduces that the creature must have died from poison. A slight smile appears on his face. This is a stroke of luck, as he was just looking for leather. To help with the task, he uses one of his abilities, manifesting a sharp blade from his own arm. He figures having a proper blade will make the process of skinning the creature much easier. He recalls the dissection techniques he was forced to learn in the lab, planning how to make the cuts. However, the moment his blade touches the creature's hide, a dark poisonous liquid drips out. He immediately jumps back as a powerful wave of poisonous aura bursts forth from the corpse. The dark purple energy spreads through the air, confirming that the creature died from a potent poison. Luckily, he is immune. He notes the lingering smell and realizes he will have to wash the hide thoroughly. After successfully skinning the beast, he fashions a makeshift cloak and considers his next step. He takes the monster hide to the nearby river, washing away the dark poison that bubbles in the water. But even after washing, he finds the hide is incredibly stiff and difficult to work with. As he struggles with the tough material, a sudden idea on how to soften it pops into his head. He begins to beat the hide against the ground, using his superhuman strength to tenderize the leather. He wonders to himself if this is the correct way to tan leather, but decides it must be right. His unorthodox method proves successful, and he holds up the now soft and flexible hide. With the material finally ready, he begins measuring it against his body to craft some proper clothes. As he works on his new clothes, the head of the dead creature suddenly catches fire, a bizarre sight. He is startled by the sudden flames and accidentally tears the hide while trying to figure out what is happening. Deciding to ignore it for now, he quickly finishes his work, using his strength to shape the hide. He fashions a simple tunic from the leather, using a vine as a makeshift belt to hold it in place. Admiring his new outfit, he is pleased that it fits his body perfectly, a small success in this new life. But he then notices a lingering purple stain, realizing the poison has not been completely washed out. As he decides to wear it anyway, he is shocked to see the flaming bird head suddenly start twitching. The creature's head shakes back and forth, making him wonder if it can somehow understand his words. He realizes that since it is alive despite having rigor mortis, it must also be an immortal-type creature. The man reflects that his past self would have killed it without a thought, but he feels different now. He smiles at the flaming head, telling the creature that they are both lucky to be in their second lives. With a final farewell, he walks away, leaving the creature behind to continue his own journey. Later, he finds a large cave and walks inside, his bare feet stepping onto the cool, rocky ground. Now that his clothing situation is solved, the young man decides that his next priority is to build a house. He examines the rough stone walls, ready to begin carving out a new home for himself in the cave. But his search is interrupted when a giant monstrous centipede emerges from the darkness, letting out a piercing screech. The massive creature lunges forward to attack, its sharp pincers aimed directly at the lone human in its territory. Completely unfazed, the young man simply looks up at the beast and calmly wonders if the cave is too dark for him. With a single swift motion, he eliminates the monster and its smaller spawn, their bodies dissolving into green liquid. He calmly turns his back on the mess, rejecting the... He breathes in the clean air, appreciating the healthy, vibrant green trees surrounding him. After about 10 minutes of walking, he finds a perfect spot where he can still hear the waterfall. A peaceful smile forms on his face as he looks up, ready to begin building his new home. The first step is to prepare a proper site, so he uses his powers to get started. He sends a thin thread of golden energy flying swiftly into the dense forest nearby. With incredible precision, the energy thread slices cleanly through several large tree trunks. He looks over the newly cleared area, satisfied that it is more than enough space for a house. Using his telekinetic abilities, he sorts through the fallen timber, gathering the best logs. Although he has enough trees, he notices that the ground is too uneven for a foundation. To solve this, he lifts a massive log and repeatedly smashes it against the ground. Soon the foundation is perfectly flat, creating a space that will get plenty of sunlight. For the first time in his life, he moves simply because he wants to, guided by his own heart. He begins building, effortlessly lifting a huge log to set the first of the corner pillars. The young man finds the work genuinely fun, wondering if this is what people call free will. With the pillars set, he quickly moves on to the next step, laying down the planks for the floor. For the walls, he needs an adhesive. Since there are no nails, he decides to use mucus from a snail-type monster. He applies the green goo between the logs, knowing it will harden like rock and act as a waterproof sealant. For the finishing touches, he weaves golden energy threads around the area to create a protective barrier. He smiles, confident that his new defenses will deter most monsters from approaching his home. His cozy cabin is now complete, reinforced with monster mucus and wrapped in durable silkworm silk. Although he is pleased with his work, he cannot shake the feeling that something important is still missing. He tries to recall what a normal human house was like, remembering a lecture he saw at the lab. In the educational videos, he saw that people often grew plants in the yards of their homes. He knows he cannot raise a normal dog here, so he thinks about what else he could add to the yard. He decides to make a vegetable garden, but wonders what kind of plants can even grow in the demon realm. Suddenly, a brilliant idea strikes him as he remembers a specific type of magical creature. He looks towards the snowy mountains nearby and considers planting a mandragora, a special monster plant. His journey takes him into a cold region where a harsh wind blows and snow falls endlessly. He knows that the mandragora's habitat is the most mana-dense area of these snowy mountains. The heavy snow triggers a painful memory, reminding him of the day he was kidnapped and taken to the lab. He recalls how cold it was back then, so much so that being kidnapped actually felt like a relief. Looking back, he realizes there were some good things about becoming a chimera, like not feeling cold or hungry. He senses the high concentration of mana in the area and knows he must be close to his destination. After a short walk, he finds a field of small green sprouts, relieved that his trip was not wasted. He remembers that mandragora are delicate creatures, extremely vulnerable to stress and environmental changes. He decides it would be best to relocate the younger, more adaptable sprouts to his new home. As he carefully pulls one from the ground, he braces himself for its infamous deadly scream. But to his surprise, the little monster simply makes a quiet, sleepy sound instead of screaming. He picks up another one, and it too makes a soft, sleepy noise, much to his confusion. He then grabs a third one, which also reacts with a gentle sound, adding to his surprise. He holds the small creatures in his hands, wondering if they are somehow sleep-talking. The mandragora scream is usually triggered by stress, especially when cultivated by humans. He expected no scream in the demon realm, but is surprised they are not resisting at all. He suddenly realizes that they might be recognizing him as one of their own kin. With the mandragora cells in his body, he carefully tucks them into his belt, glad they are not stressed. He daydreams about brewing tea from their roots and enjoying their fruit as a snack once they are grown. But he remembers their fruit becomes poisonous if taken by force, so he knows he must persuade them gently. Suddenly, he senses others nearby, realizing there are hunters on this dangerous snowy mountain. A sly smile crosses his face as he considers the opportunity to quickly grab some gate stones from them. Meanwhile, two hunters are angry after being abandoned as bait by their own allies. They are immediately surrounded by a pack of fierce, monstrous rabbits and must prepare to fight. These creatures are vicious, with sharp teeth and strange tentacles writhing inside their mouths. One of the men desperately creates a large hexagonal ice barrier to block the pack's furious assault. He struggles to hold the shield, his face filled with strain as he realizes his defense will not last. Cracks begin to spread across the ice, and he warns his companion that the barrier is about to break. As it shatters, he regrets ever volunteering for this mission to find the legendary chimera. The shield breaks completely, and he cries out for help as the monstrous rabbits lunge toward him. But just as they are about to strike, a massive explosion of energy blasts all the creatures away. The two hunters are left stunned by the sudden intervention, surrounded by the defeated monsters. Through the swirling snow, a lone figure appears, and one of the hunters nervously asks if it is a person. The stranger stands before the two rescued hunters, his expression calm and unreadable. He calmly identifies one of the remaining creatures as a snow rabbit, which lets out a menacing growl. The young man then releases a wave of immense pressure, his powerful aura terrifying the entire monster pack. With a single effortless kick, he sends one of the rabbits flying, causing the others to scatter in fear. The two hunters watch in disbelief, shocked that powerful B-class monsters would flee so easily. With the immediate threat gone, one of the survivors gratefully thanks the stranger for saving them. He introduces himself as Kim Tae-hoon, and his companion then asks for his savior's name, who replies, Chon Do-woon. Tae-hoon is puzzled, as he has never heard that name before, and wonders about Do-woon's strange outfit. His companion asks why Do-woon is here, and Tae-hoon explains he is likely a D-class hunter here for money. He mentions a lucrative request to capture a chimera alive, which immediately catches Do-woon's attention. He clarifies that a machine-type test subject escaped from a lab and jumped into this gate. Do-woon decides to take their gate stone, but the hunters admit their former teammates took everything. The wounded man clutches his arm, explaining the betrayal was planned from the start. He recalls his regret, remembering how the B-class hunter offered to let him join the team. The hunters desperately ask for help, warning him about the deadly effects of mana contamination. A hunter's survival time in the demon realm depends on their grade. Without purification, mana contamination is fatal. One of the men begs for his pregnant wife, but Do-woon has already found the ones who ran away. Without warning, he leaps high into the air, leaving the two stranded hunters staring in shock. They yell after him in a panic, desperately asking where he is going as he flies away. Meanwhile, a small white robot with glowing yellow eyes stands alone amidst the snowy trees. The robot, an escaped chimera, cautiously looks over a cliff, sensing danger in the area below. At that moment, the hunters who betrayed their team rush forward, attempting to capture the machine. The robot's sensors immediately detect the approaching group, identifying them as dangerous things. Its eyes turn red as it activates its combat mode, preparing to neutralize the incoming threats. With a single command to eliminate, the creature unleashes its power upon the ambushing hunters. Do-woon arrives at the scene of the battle, wondering if he is one step too late to intervene. He finds bloodstains and abandoned luggage in the snow, concluding that the hunters have all fled. He then notices strange child and animal-like footprints mixed in with the blood and bags. Looking at the evidence, he wonders if the creature fought while changing its form. He recalls the story of the escaped mechanical creature, realizing it is more than just a simple machine. It is made of liquid metal, allowing it to freely change its form. But the rare material limited its size. Do-woon is impressed, noting that the small mechanical creature was able to overwhelm 5 B-rank hunters. Back with the two stranded hunters, Tae-hoon desperately tries to rouse his dying companion. Sung-ju believes he is done for. his body completely contaminated by the demonic energy. Tae-hoon frantically tries to keep him conscious, reminding him of his child being born next month. Just as the dying hunter loses hope, a lone figure walks towards them through the falling snow. Tae-hoon looks up in shock, tears welling in his eyes as he sees the approaching savior. It is Do-woon, now carrying all the abandoned luggage, a glowing aura surrounding him. He walks right up to the kneeling hunter, dropping a pair of sturdy combat boots in the snow. Tae-hoon falls to his knees, begging the powerful stranger to save them from certain death. Do-woon reminds him that they have no gate stone, but the hunter knows all too well what that means. In a desperate plea, he offers 2 10 million won checks, begging to buy just 1 gate stone. Do-woon looks at the checks, considering the offer as the hunter explains they will die if they do not return. He then pulls out a gate stone, breaking it in half to create 2 separate portals back to the human world. As the hunter bows deeply in gratitude, Do-woon opens a portal, offering them a way home. As Tae-hoon urges his friend to get up, Do-woon looks at the checks he was offered. The stranger asks about the current cost of a gate stone, which the hunter says is now 1 million won. Do-woon closes his hand over the money, feeling that he has been paid far too much. He smiles, telling the 2 hunters that he will give them something else as change instead. He then places his hands on them, and a powerful wave of blue mana swirls around their bodies. The hunter is shocked, realizing that the man is injecting mana, a dangerous act even for A-rank hunters. If 2 different mana sources clash, the mana cores of both individuals will break, leading to death. But to his astonishment, the dark demonic energy is completely purified from his body. His friend is also cured, and the 2 embrace in tearful disbelief, overjoyed to be alive. Do-woon tells them to go back, and the hunters thank him, stunned by his overwhelming mana control. With the 2 men safely on their way, Do-woon heads back to the new home he has built for himself. He returns to his cabin, satisfied that there were no intruders and that he got some unexpected income. He then checks on the mandragoras in his belt, noticing their leaves are drooping from the long trip. He gently plants the 3 small sprouts in the prepared garden patch in front of his new home. However, the little creatures look up at him with clear dissatisfaction, unhappy with their new surroundings. He thinks about how, once the mandragoras have grown, he could ask for some roots to make tea. He then recalls that their fruit becomes poisonous if picked by force, so he must persuade them nicely. Suddenly, he senses a familiar presence nearby, realizing he is not alone in the forest. He turns and sees the mechanical creature the hunters were chasing, the one he let escape. Hiding in the bushes, the small robot watches him silently, and he wonders what it wants. Deciding to deal with it later, he goes inside his new cabin and stashes away the money he received. He sits down on the wooden floor and begins to organize the abandoned luggage he brought back. The bag is full of useful supplies, including camping gear, spare clothes, and 8 gate stones. He pulls out a pack of instant ramen, a food he remembers eating as a child in the orphanage. Feeling hungry after his long day, he decides to try cooking the ramen for his first proper meal. The recipe calls for a specific amount of water, so he heads outside to estimate it by the river. As he gathers water, bubbles begin to form on the surface, indicating something is moving below. A large monstrous fish leaps out from the river, surprising him as he holds his cooking pot. He then remembers that people often add other ingredients to their ramen to make it better. Thinking the fish would be a delicious addition, he quickly lands a powerful punch on the creature. The recipe also calls for eggs, so he uses some strange roe he found, figuring it will work as a substitute. Since he has no green onions, he climbs a tree and plucks some random leaves to add for a similar flavor. With all the ingredients gathered in his pot, he decides his preparations are done and heads back to his camp. As he walks back to his cabin, the small mechanical creature watches him from a distance, hidden behind a tree. The robot's stomach rumbles as it observes the young man, its curiosity piqued by the sight of him cooking. He lights the portable burner, but realizes the ramen instructions do not specify when to add the fish. Deciding to improvise, he boils everything together, stirring the pot at his makeshift log table. Meanwhile, the 3 little mandragoras slowly creep closer, drawn in by the smell of the cooking food. But as the strong aroma reaches them, they wrinkle their noses, wondering if ramen is supposed to smell this way. The unusual smell of his cooking drifts through the quiet forest, reaching farther than he expected. The tantalizing scent also reaches the hidden robot, which drools, suddenly wanting to eat the food too. The mechanical creature gets an idea. It remembers an observation from the lab and begins to change its form. It transforms into a sad-looking dog, hoping to appeal to the man's pity, a tactic it learned about humans. The transformed creature approaches him, whining pitifully. Do-woon notices it has been following him all along. He looks from the creature to his freshly cooked meal, letting out a small sigh as the little dog continues to whine. He sees through the creature's act, wondering if it transformed into a dog to lower his guard. Its clumsy attempt to seem innocent makes him wonder how it managed to escape and survive this long. He sighs and offers some of his food, asking if the creature wants to eat with him. The dog-like chimera drools with anticipation as he gets ready to serve the strange-looking meal. He looks down at the bizarre concoction in his pot, a mix of fish, roe, and leaves, and decides to try it. He takes a bite while the little dog happily eats its own portion from a separate plate. As the dog eats, it looks up at him with a puzzled expression, confused by the unfamiliar taste. The flavor triggers a memory from his childhood, a time when he ate ramen with other orphans. He remembers happily eating the hot noodles, a rare and joyful moment from his difficult past. A gentle smile spreads across his face as the taste brings back the memory of when he was 7. After the meal, the strong, delicious smell of the ramen lingers in the air, overpowering everything else. The overpowering scent, however, is too much for the nearby mandragoras, who react with disgust. After they finish eating, Do-woon tells the creature it can go now, as he needs to clean up. But instead of leaving, the little dog simply turns and walks away a few steps before stopping. The man then points out that the creature was limping on its left foot earlier, catching it in its lie. Exposed, the creature starts to limp again, trying to maintain its facade, much to Do-woon's amusement. With the meal finished, he heads to the waterfall to do the dishes, and then his laundry. He washes the clothes from the abandoned bag, knowing he cannot live in leather forever. He gently beats the clothes with a wooden stick, careful not to hit them too hard and tear the fabric. But his first attempt fails as the stick suddenly breaks, much to the surprise of a watching creature. The little dog-like chimera watches from a distance as the man's attempt at laundry ends in failure. Do-woon is unfazed, noting that it is okay, because there is still one more piece of clothing left to wash. He then notices the strange mechanical creature is still hovering around him, its form constantly changing. This time it has transformed into a sparkling rock with cute cartoonish eyes, adding to his confusion. The creature silently watches him eat, do dishes, and even as he admires the flowers nearby. As he looks at the forsythia-like flowers, the creature transforms into a tree-like form to blend in. A small bee-like monster is drawn to the flowers and lands on the disguised chimera's body. The mechanical creature panics, reverting to its original form and frantically running away from the bee. Its eyes glow red with terror as it expresses its intense hatred for bees, revealing a childish fear. The man watches the frantic display, deducing that the creature's clumsy speech and actions mean something. He realizes the creature's simple mind is a common side effect in young chimeras with injected knowledge. After its failed attempt to scare him, the little robot shyly peeks out from behind the flowers. After a lot of effort, he finally manages to get one of the shirts clean, admitting laundry is hard. He holds up the salvaged shirt, relieved that he was at least able to save this one piece of clothing. He hangs the small shirt to dry, then decides to go and check on his newly planted mandragoras. From its hiding spot, the robot watches him, its glowing eyes fixed on the clean white shirt. It sees the man wearing clothes and decides that it should also wear clothes to be more like him. The little robot quickly grabs the shirt from the line and puts it on, claiming it as its own. It proudly shows off its new outfit, happy with its decision to wear human-like clothing. But the transformation does not stop there. As its metallic body begins to change and grow, the robot's hand morphs into a human-like one, and its body takes on a new, more familiar shape. It fully transforms into a small girl, proud of its new perfect human form. The man finds his mandragoras hiding under a rock, their leaves wilting and roots looking dry. He is confused, as he was sure he had pulled all the weeds when he first made the garden. Suddenly, strange worm-like creatures burst from the ground, and he realizes he should have tilled the soil. After clearing the pests, he decides to make a proper house-sized vegetable garden for his new plants. As he works, a small girl cautiously peeks out from behind a tree and says hello. Surprised to see a child, he cautiously returns her greeting, wondering why she is talking to him. The little girl points to his cabin and asks if it is his house, to which he simply replies yes. She then asks if he is a native here, and the man decides to tease her a little bit. He asks her what tribe she is from, and the girl nervously repeats the word, caught off guard. She quickly makes up a story, claiming she is from a faraway tribe across the waterfall. The man plays along, asking if she is from the Coconut tribe, a name he just invented. The girl quickly agrees, but he then points out that her outfit looks suspiciously like his. He asks what brings the Coconut tribe here, and the girl sadly admits that she was kicked out. She then makes a surprising request, asking if she can live here with him in his new home. He asks why she wants to live there, and she explains that the place seems safe from bugs. She nervously fiddles with her fingers, adding that with a house, it feels safe and secure. He realizes that all she really wants is a safe place to rest, and he decides to let her stay. He agrees, but on the condition that she does her fair share of the work, and she happily accepts. His first task for her is to help till the new vegetable patch for the mandragoras. She eagerly takes the tilling tool, confidently telling him to leave it to her because she is strong. The little girl then unleashes a surprising burst of power, effortlessly clearing the entire field. He realizes she has no intention of hiding her identity, or maybe she just does not know how a normal child acts. After the work is done, he asks for her name, which seems to catch the little girl completely by surprise. She admits she has no name, and decides to make a new one, inspired by the pretty flowers she saw. She proudly declares that her name is Kim Nari, holding her tilling tool like a triumphant hero. Do-woon mishears her, thinking she named herself after the forsythia flowers, but she quickly corrects him. With the tilling done, they quickly finish the new garden, enclosing it with a sturdy stone fence. The little mandragoras are overjoyed with their new home, happily dancing in the freshly tilled soil. But as he watches them play, he notices the little girl standing alone, looking sad and left out. Her eyes fill with tears, and she looks down at the ground, a wave of loneliness washing over her. He realizes that in the lab, she would have never had the chance to make friends or play with others. The little girl's sad expression deepens, a single tear rolling down her cheek as she feels isolated. At that moment, something unexpected happens, catching both of their attention in the quiet forest. A sudden piercing shriek echoes through the forest, startling the girl and making her duck for cover. She tells him she saw a chick-like monster being attacked by several others on her way here. The girl says the creature seemed to be in pain, bitten and wounded by its attackers. She clutches her head in distress, but Do-woon asks if she wants to save the monster. He gently offers to help her, framing it as a choice rather than a command to ease her fears. With his encouragement, she leaps into the air, flying off to find the creature in distress. She arrives just in time to see several large insectoid monsters tormenting a small, fluffy creature. The little white monster cries out in pain as the larger beasts continue to attack it relentlessly. The girl angrily yells at the monsters to stop tormenting the small creature, her voice full of rage. She swiftly kicks one of the insectoids away, putting herself between them and the wounded monster. With tears in her eyes, she makes a firm decision. She will save the helpless creature. The scene flashes back to a grim memory of a rank battle in the lab, where she was always first. She recalls the other chimeras, who were terrified of being used in high failure rate experiments. They blamed her for their fate, cruelly attacking her because she always did as she was told. But the memory is cut short, as a powerful attack slams into the ground, a new challenger arriving. Fueled by her past trauma, she yells at the monsters to stop, unleashing a powerful shockwave. With tears of rage in her eyes, she declares that many people tormenting one person is a bad thing. She unleashes her full power, sending the insectoid monsters flying and ending the fight in an instant. Back at the camp, Do-woon is calmly feeding his mandragoras, asking them if the manna is delicious, but his peaceful moment is interrupted when the girl returns, frantically calling out his name. She runs up to him in a panic, tears streaming down her face as she asks him what she should do. She holds up the small, fluffy creature, explaining that it is hurt and will not come to its senses. He tells her to calm down, but then he recognizes the strange, flaming aura of the little monster. The girl asks if the creature is dying, and he decides to take a closer look to assess its condition. He gently places his fingers on the creature, channeling his own mana to heal its wounds. As his energy flows into it, he can sense its unique history and magical properties. Each monster's magic contains a unique history, a kind of magical DNA that tells its story. He recognizes it as the same immortal-type creature he encountered before, though it is much smaller now. As he heals the small monster, he realizes it is the same one he found dead and later spared. He wonders why it has shrunk so much, theorizing that its regeneration method must be different from his own. He explains that the creature is just malnourished, because its small size made it hard to find food. He assures her that since he has given it some mana, it will recover on its own if left alone. The girl remembers her past trauma in the lab, a time when she was surrounded by other suffering chimeras. A memory of a sad, fluffy creature lying defeated on the cold lab floor flashes in her mind. She insists that if they leave it alone, it will die, and holds it up to show how weak it is. She nervously asks if she can raise it, promising to train and feed it well if he allows her to. He warns her that it might grow quite large, but she quickly promises to only feed it a little. Seeing her determination, he agrees, and the little girl is overjoyed by his answer. The small monster finally wakes up, looking around in confusion, wondering where it is. Its eyes land on Do-woon, and it immediately seems to recognize the man who is watching it. The creature coos, recognizing him as the one who took its skin when it was much larger. The little girl is initially confused, but then squeezes the creature in a tight, affectionate hug. She excitedly holds up the now awake monster, amazed that it is making dove-like noises. The little creature struggles in her grasp, demanding to be let go, much to her delight. As the monster yells, Do-woon is shocked to realize that he can perfectly understand what it is saying. The girl proudly announces that the treatment is complete, and that she has picked a name for the creature. Since it coos like a pigeon, she decides to name it Koo, a choice that Do-woon finds not bad. The little monster, however, is not pleased, protesting that it already has a name. But the girl does not seem to understand it, and instead douses it with a bucket of water. She then panics, telling Do-woon that the creature is puffing up like a blowfish after she gave it water. With tasks piling up, he decides to build a storage cabinet to keep their things organized. He uses his blade to start shaping a log, deciding on a size that is not too big. The sharp blade cuts easily through the wood, but he quickly realizes something is wrong. He stands back, confused as to why the logs for the cabinet are so different from the ones he used for the table. The little creature Koo explains that he is using soft wood, which is a different color. The man is surprised to learn that wood strength varies by type, a fact he never knew before. Koo is about to explain which color wood is the strongest when it suddenly stops, its eyes widening in shock. Do-woon looks around the forest, thinking about the red wood Koo mentioned, his interest piqued. The little monster is stunned, realizing that the man somehow understood what it said. It decides to use its telepathy to read his mind and confirm if he can truly understand it. As the telepathic link is established, Do-woon's thoughts of searching for red wood flood the creature's mind. The little monster is shocked that its telepathy was blocked, a feat it thought was impossible. Realizing the man can understand it, the creature nervously asks if he can truly hear its thoughts. He explains it is not really hearing, but more like the words just pop into his head. He then turns the question back on Koo, pointing out that it is much weirder for a monster to understand human speech. The man deduces that the little creature must be one of the rare intelligent monsters born against all odds. He then asks if they have met before, recognizing the familiar feeling of its mana signature. Koo admits they have, explaining that it really wanted to see him again after he saved its life. It wanted to help him in return, a way to repay him for removing the poison and saving its core. Do-woon decides to take it up on its offer, asking if it can help him find the red wood now. Koo nods its head in agreement, ready to fulfill its promise to assist the man who saved it. The little creature puffs up its chest and confidently agrees to guide him to where the red trees grow. But as they prepare to leave, a sudden explosion of fire engulfs the girl Nari in flames. She screams in terror, the fire triggering a traumatic memory of the hot, painful experiments in the lab. The fiery blast throws her to the ground, leaving her dazed and terrified by the sudden attack. The girl panics, believing the lab has come to capture her, her fear of fire overwhelming her. A man with a tracking device confirms that the shape-shifting mechanical creature is his target. Surrounded by flames, the long-haired hunter emerges, ready to capture the escaped chimera. He admits he does not feel great about attacking a kid, but his own life is on the line. He gathers a ball of fire in his hand, explaining that he hopes the girl will understand his actions. With a powerful motion, he launches the fiery projectile directly at the terrified little girl. She screams in terror, bracing for the impact, believing this is the end of her short-lived freedom. But Do-woon intervenes, annoyed that his quiet life was interrupted before he could even eat. Koo-woon tells him it will show him the trees later, its voice filled with a newfound urgency. The man's eyes glow with power as he agrees. His immediate priority now is to save the kid. He sees Nari cowering in fear, realizing she is not mentally stable and has a deep trauma related to fire. He decides to put out the fire first, and Koo agrees, calling the attacker a scumbag for bullying a child. The long-haired hunter is enraged, but Do-woon calmly tells him to leave while he still can. A tense standoff begins, with the man standing between the attacker and the terrified girl. Enraged by the interruption, the fiery hunter unleashes his power, determined not to be stopped. He unleashes a torrent of flames, yelling at Do-woon to get lost and stay out of his way. Do-woon calmly raises his hand, a small point of blue light forming at the tip of his finger. He fires a concentrated beam of energy, which easily cuts through the fire and slams into the distant mountain. The blast causes a massive explosion, and the hunter looks on in shock, unable to believe what just happened. He stares in utter disbelief, his face pale with fear as he comprehends the man's immense power. Do-woon calmly asks the girl if she is okay now, the threat completely neutralized in an instant. Nari wipes away her tears, relieved that her new uncle has turned off the scary fire. He then gives her a simple piece of advice, telling her to just knock out her fear whenever she gets scared. He grabs the unconscious hunter by the hair, dragging him effortlessly across the ground. As he lifts him up, he adds that if the fear wakes up, she should just knock it out again. But as he lifts the man, he is surprised to find that the hunter's long, dark hair comes right off. The defeated hunter is left with a shiny, bald head, and Do-woon is left holding a very realistic wig.